game available for download in the App Store. And I am back on top at 388. As promised, this episode we are going to get into some really juicy coding. We're going to start talking about some dynamic gameplay, adding some more fun, zing, coolness, whatever you want to call it, to our game, our juiciness. So what we're going to do is, first things first, is we're going to open up the object spawner script. And we're going to have a look at this very basic script, which is basically the mechanics for our entire game in regards to what comes attacking and falling at us. We want to actually create a bigger log, and this log is going to be an instant kill log, and this log is going to be you see in some games like I think like Battletoads, maybe not Battletoads, but some of the early games, the first games to do it, but you see it all the time in video games where a monster's coming to get you, and the shadow will fall underneath the player, or something will notify you that you're about to get hit by it and you need to move out of the way. I think we should do the same thing in this game, but we'll have actually debris falling down, so little twigs and stigs and things like that, to let the player know that the instant kill tree is about to fall down. So to do this, we actually need to use an Ienumerator, not a void, an Ienumerator. So this is where the coding gets a little bit more juicy, a little bit funner. So to do that, let's, I suppose, create some variables. So we need to, for what I want to do, we need to reference the player position. So we'll create a public game object. You can use transform, but I just like to access the transform through the game object variable. That's just how I like to do things. Call it player. Create a new game object called public game object big tree. Might want to put. I'm going to actually put the big. I'm going to actually put the big tree under the trees. Get rid of it here, and I'm going to create a separate these out a little bit, just so it's a little bit easier to read the variables, because our variable section is getting quite big. I'm going to create another variable called public game object. I'm going to call it actually it's going to be an array, and we're going to call it debris, because it's going to be an array. The random debris. Oh, I know, bad English. That's okay. Okay, next thing is we want to create a big tree timer. So big. Oh, we need to create a variable first, actually. So under here, private float big tree timer equals 5.0. Yeah, actually for testing purposes, 5.0f is fine. 5 seconds. And we can say big tree timer minus equals time.delta time, just like the other two. And another one of these timers, but it's going to be big tree timer is less than 0. We want to access start the Ienumerator. So start the coroutine. So what we need to do is we need to start a coroutine here. We've done that in the previous video, in which I get thoroughly confused in the syntax, but we'll give it a go. Start coroutine, spawn, call it big tree, very imaginative with my names. Open parentheses, close another parentheses. Did I get it right? I think I did, or I think we just don't have the right, we don't have that yet. And then underneath spawn tree, let's create an Ienumerator. Spawn big tree. Fantastic. So I think that's going to work. If we just go yield return new, return null, just to see, because it has to return something, just to see if we've got any errors. Press play. Nope, game's working absolutely fine. Fantastic. So we can delete, well actually we can say, instead of return null, we can say return new, wait for, actually let's just get rid of the code. It might be easy just to code it. Whoa, I'm just trying to zoom into a nice amount for everybody. Awesome. Okay, so we want to, as soon as there's the tree's been spawned, we want to create a vector 2 and call it a spawn spot. We want to create an int debris timer, and we'll equal that to random.range from 20 to 30. So first, before we actually do this, we need to think about what we're doing. So right now, it's going to call this coroutine every single frame that big tree timer is less than 0. So the first thing we probably want to do is make sure that big tree timer is not less than 0, so that it only gets called once. So to do that, we can just write big tree timer equals 1000. That's fine. I mean, it's not the best coding in the world. I'll definitely have some people waving their fingers at me for that, but I think it serves its purpose, and it's fine for what we're doing. We're making a small iPhone game. I think it's fine. So next thing we want to do is we want to create all right. What we can do is we can have the tree just randomly spawn like all the other trees, just randomly, like. But I think what would actually be cooler is if we had a percentage chance of it actually falling down right above the player's head. So let's say for some reason the player was hiding over here, and for some reason no logs were coming down to hit him in the head. If we had him just sitting over here, we can make it so, let's say 50% of the time, the tree will actually start to fall straight on his head, so forcing him to actually move, adding a little bit more gameplay to the game. I think that is a good idea. So we can just code in another integer, and we'll call this spawn on player %. That's really bad. And we'll call it we'll equal it to random.range . 0 to 100. So it's going to select a random number from 0 to 100. Oh, and then we want to write an if statement. If spawn on player %. Let's indent that so it's easier to read. Is less than 50. Maybe it doesn't want to. Maybe I should just leave it there. If it's less than 50, then spawn spot equals new. So this variable here, this vector 2, equals new vector 2 random dot range. So exactly the same as this over here. Yep, so it's going to fall exactly where one of the other trees are going to fall. Yeah, that's fine. Except we're going to make it. Hang on a second. Yeah, so cool. Yeah, I'm gonna make it 20 because it needs to be a little bit higher than the last than 10 because it's going to be a much bigger log. And then so if it's less than 50, create a spawn spot equals a new vector, new vector, which is just one of these random tree spots, which is what we want. And if we can actually write else. And so else is like, if it's not under 50, if it's something else, then we do this. And then we can just write spawn spot equals new vector 2. We just copy that. And the new vector 2 is going to be player, which is our player variable up here that we created, dot transform dot position dot x. And the Y position is going to be 20. Okay, awesome. So now we've created this random spawn spot. Nothing's actually instantiated yet, but we're getting on our way. Then we want to create a. I really think these should be indented. I'm just gonna indent them just because it's freaking me out. While we want to create a while loop. So while will happen whenever something is returned true, it will continue this. It will continue doing this. Okay, sorry. An if statement runs if condition is true, right? So if it's less than 50, it's going to do this. A while loop will run while the condition remains true. It will continue to run this this method that we're about to this list of commands that we're about to create. So if we say if while debris timer is greater than 0, then we can say debris timer minus minus, so we want that to go down one. We can say float, we can just make a float t, which just stands for time, equals random dot range 0.005 f 0.1 f, and then we can do yield return new wait for seconds. And how long do we want to wait for? We want to wait for t, which is just the amount of time. So it's random every time. We want to wait a random amount every time. And then we just want to create a debug.log spawned, just so we can do a bit of debugging. And we want to create a new game object. Game object BT for big tree equals, oh no, debris, sorry, debris equals instantiate. Actually, we don't need, now we might need it in the future. We're going to keep the game object there. So game object debris equals instantiate debris, debris. Open. So we want to access one of the array. So we open the array, and then we want to choose the number in the array. So we can just say random dot range from. We've done this before in the last tutorial. Debris dot length. Close that, and add a new vector 2, which is going to be spawn. So we want to actually spawn it at the spawn spot. so it might get a bit hard to read here. Spawn spot dot x plus random. I know it's getting hectic. Dot range. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Oh, random dot range, and we want that to be between minus 1.0f and 1.0f. So anywhere between minus 1 and 1 in the x vector of the spawn spot, and we want to do that at spawn spot dot y minus 10, just so it's a little bit lower than the log, and then we want to do quaternion dot identity as game object. Alright, so I know that's a mouthful, but it really is really simple if you do break it down. We want to instantiate a debris. We want to create a object called a debris game object. It's going to be an object that's instantiated from the debris, which is this game object array up here. We want it to be which one? Which one of the array? Well, select for us a random range between 0, which is none, and the length of the array. Make that at a new vector. Vector 2 spawn spot dot new vector 2 at spawn spot, which is this variable up here, dot x plus random range, so that gives us a little bit of wobble in where they get instantiated, and just minus 10 off the y position at the same rotation, and then make it a game object. Fantastic. So that is a mouthful. We actually need to just put another bracket there to make it stop whinging. Awesome. So that should work, so that'll spawn some debris, and we then want to close the while loop. Awesome. And then we want to just put a debug.log. I know, guys, there's a lot of coding, but it's all right. We'll get through it. And we want to just say complete, and then underneath that, I don't like how this looks, but what's going on here? Okay, that should not be like that. It's like we have an extra. That goes there. Alright, we're just going to delete that. I don't know why it's there. And we're just going, I knew something was looking off. We'll find out soon when we go to run the game and it crashes. And then we just want to say yield, return. What's going on? Awesome. Return, new, wait for seconds. So we want to wait 1 second before we pump out the big log. Just let's just wait 1 second. And then we just want to instantiate. No, that's not what we want to do. Instantiate big tree. Where at? We want to do it at the spawn spot at quaternion dot identity, and then we just want to say big tree timer. We want to change it from 1000 obviously to equal random dot range 15.0f to 45.0f. That's a good number. Alright, that should work. That should all work completely fine, and we'll be happy with that. Hopefully we get no errors. We probably will, but that's okay, we can fix them. Alright, so if we go to the scripts, we'll see now that we have a big game big tree game object that needs to be filled, and some debris game objects that need to be filled. For now, I'm just going to go to our sprites. Going to get the square, drop the square in to the hierarchy, and I'm just going to make this point 1. I'm going to color it brown. This is just all placeholder stuff. I'll just call it debris. We'll go to our prefabs. I'm going to create a folder called temp. So we make sure we delete it. And we want to make sure that this has a rigid body connected to it, so it falls down. Let's see if it falls. Yeah, we probably want it to fall at a speed of, like, say 3. Let's say 5. And we just want to drag that into our temp folder. And then we want to create another one. Let's say this one's a bit longer. 2. Well, that looks disgusting. Change the color. This is all just placeholder stuff, guys. And let's say another one. Let's say it's 0.5 and make that a little bit lighter. And another one that's going to be 0.3 and 0.3, yes. And let's make another one that's just 0.1, 0.2, and let's make it a little bit darker. Alright, so we've got 5, that's enough. And the other thing we want to make is go to our sprites. Let's just drag in this game object. And we want to make it pretty big. We're going to make it like, let's say, 10? Probably can go 15. Not 115, just 15. No, just 15, sorry. Let's just drag it's pretty cool. Let's call this big tree. Sorry, let's go to hierarchy, big tree, call it big tree. Let's add a rigid body to it, and let's make the gravity scale 15. Probably could go about 12. Awesome. And box collider 2D. And right now we'll just make it a log, but we know it's not a log, we know it's a big ass tree. And we can change that later, but just for testing purposes, let's go to prefabs, let's go to temp, let's drag it in, and let's delete it. Go to scripts, and let's assign all these. So let's assign our player first, player to the player game object. Let's assign our big tree. Let's go to debris, and let's change this. What we can actually do is you actually press the lock button, and then we can just click, highlight all these, and we can drag them back over to the debris, and then it just lines them all up for us, which is fantastic. Then just unclick it to make sure you can get out of that same screen. And let's cross our fingers, let's see if it works. So moving along, in 5 seconds it should start spawning some debris. Whoa, yep. And it falls down just fine. We just need to make sure the big tree is on the log layer. And we probably want to create an audio, public audio, audio clip, falling big tree falling. And we just want to make, if we just go into our player collide script, we can literally just take this code here, and after it gets instantiated, we can play big tree falling, and let's play it at 3.0. I think some of the audio clips have been a bit bit quiet. Go to CFXR, and let's choose a sweet sound just for testing purposes, obviously. It's not good, but we're going to use it. And we just export that. And we'll just go to game development. Let's make a game together. Tutorials, Keegan, assets, audio, big tree falling. And export the WAV file and go back to Unity. It's importing it. And our scripts folder, if we go to our audio, go to scripts, if we just click and drag the player tree falling, big tree falling, and we press play, the game should feel a lot better. Let's give this a go. So 5 seconds pass. Oh, gotta get out of the way of that. Goes past. And we need to we actually need to say player.getComponent, just so it accesses the audio source on the player. Player's moving left and right, fine. And it falls down. Oh, cool. So for testing purposes, that worked fine. Obviously, we need to adjust some things. The log just bumped into some things there. For some testing's sake, we can adjust all this later, but we're just going to change. Say the big tree, we're just going to freeze its. We're just going to turn its box collider to is trigger. So that means it'll pass through everything, and it won't collide with the player anymore, but we can work on that later on. At least we can get the feel for the game and see what it feels like. So I think that looks pretty cool. Obviously the debris looks like crap, but testing purposes, now we got to wait just a little bit longer for the time to tick down. Oh man, I died. Damn it. Cool. So that was the first time. Now let's see if it respawns after a certain amount of time. Hopefully I don't die. I should give myself like a god mode, but... Oh, yep. Awesome. So, our game is working just fine. We've added some basic dynamic gameplay, which is what we want. And one big ass method here, well, big ass for our game, small for any other game, but yeah, awesome guys. So we've done that, now we can move on to the next thing. So see you next time guys, I'll see you in the next video where we'll continue this project and move forward with our awesome game. See you guys.